Mr. Chair, since the beneficial ownership form is submitted naman to the SEC, may we require that the beneficial ownership form be submitted to the committee?
I am not aware, Mr. Chair.
That we direct the resource speaker to submit his income tax return for 2018 declared in 2019. Mr. Chair, so moved.
There is a motion that the resource person submit a copy of his income tax return.
The sale of real estate.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Congressman Akop.
I think we have a motion to settle.
Okay.
Before this resource person can speak.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you. So please proceed, Congresswoman Luistro.
Mr. Chair, I just want to share to the public that the other and common modes of transfer of these shareholdings are by way of sale or assignment. And if these are the cases or the modes that which were adopted by Biancham, I believe that there's an obligation to pay the necessary taxes for the transfer. I wish to read, Mr. Chair, Section 254 and 255 of the Tax Code as amended. The state can file a criminal case for tax evasion against any taxpayer who willfully attempts in any manner to evade or defeat payment of any tax imposed by the tax code. Given this legal provision, Mr. Chair, I wish to move, or may I move as well, that we direct the resource speaker to submit his income tax return for 2018 declared in 2019. Mr. Chair, so moved.
There is a motion that the resource person submit a copy of his income tax return for the period 2018.
The supposed income was generated 2018, but I believe, Mr. Chair, that by practice it will be disclosed by 2019 income tax return, filed in 2019.
There is a motion, as clearly stated by Congresswoman Jinky Luistro, to require the resource person to submit income tax return on the period covered. Is there
Mr. Chair,
a second?
Mr. Chair, may I inquire? Because the sale of real estate.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Congressman Akop.
I think we have a motion to settle.
Okay.
Before this resource person can speak.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. We will first dispose of the motion, and then we will allow Congressman Attorney Harry Roque to speak. So there is a motion clearly stated earlier by Congresswoman Jinky Luistro, duly seconded. Are there any objections? Hearing none, the motion is carried. The resource person is required to submit to the committee the documents being asked by Congresswoman Jinky Luistro.
Yes.
Now, Attorney Harry Roque, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to manifest that as far as the sale of the real estate is concerned, it will not be reflected in my income tax because it is subject to final tax. So I will submit the final tax paid for the transaction, Mr. Chair, because at this point, my income tax will be irrelevant to the increase of my assets because it was by reason of sale of real estate subject to final tax. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Attorney Harry Roque. Does that satisfy?
This representation takes note of his manifestation, but this representation maintains as well the submission of the ITR declared in 2019.
Okay, so the resource person has learned that the requirement of Congresswoman Luistro is the income tax return of 2020. Okay, thank you.
No further question for the moment, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Congresswoman Luistro. The next to interpolate is Congresswoman Migs Nograles. You are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon to our resource person. May I direct the questions to Attorney Harry Roque, Mr. Chair?
Please proceed.
Attorney Roque, with regard to Biancham, as a former chairman and president of Biancham, and of course, a very known lawyer, are you familiar with its subsidiaries?
Wholly owned corporations by an existing corporation, Mr. Chair.
Are you familiar with the subsidiaries of Biancham?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I am familiar with subsidiaries of Biancham.
What are these subsidiaries?
I have PH2, which is wholly owned by Biancham. There's another one, Lat something, which is also a holding corporation for another real estate company.
Let's show on the GIS on 2020 the subsidiaries. As stated in the GIS. Can we show it, please? So do you have 4 subsidiaries?
Yes, Madam,
That's-
Mr. Chair.
That's PH2, Lot, First Bataan, Maribeles, Maribeles Power, and Block 19 in Pine Woods Village. So, since PH2, Lot 37, Pine Woods is subsidiary, I'm sure you're familiar with PH2, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And you confirm that Biancham currently owns 99.9% of PH2, and even in 2018 it was 95%, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
In fact, in 2018, you were a shareholder, the resource person is a shareholder of PH2.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And at one point, even the chairman and president of PH2.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And this attorney Ortega, who acquired, now owns 99% of Biancham, was also a shareholder of PH2, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
In fact, he was a director, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And you confirm that at one point, as stated in the 2022 GIS, a certain attorney Gonzalez became a shareholder of PH2 as well.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So these are the breakdowns of Biancham's incorporators in 2014, PH2 stockholders in 2018, and Biancham's first GIS and amended GIS in 2022. So essentially, in Biancham, in 2014, you owned 49.96%. In March 2020, you owned 98%, and just in 7 months, it was Attorney Ortega who owned 99% of Biancham.
By virtue of a trust agreement, Mr. Chair.
Currently, and PH2 stockholders in 2019, Biancham Trading owns 95%. This was in 2018 GIS as reflected. You own 1%. Attorney Ortega owns 1%. And Attorney Gonzalez later on owned stocks in PH2. Is this correct?
That is what the record says, Mr. Chair, yes.
So essentially, the shareholders of PH2 and Biancham are almost the same.
It is 100% owned, Mr. Chair, by Biancham, except for the nominal shareholders to complete the minimum of 5 incorporators and directors, which was then required by the Corporation Code.
So the resource person is saying it's essentially owned, Mr. Chair. Let's just put that in record. Currently, Mr. Percival Ortega, as established earlier, has a 99% share in Biancham. So and he is the current chairman and president. This is correct.
He holds almost all the shares now in trust in behalf of all the families subject to our settlement, Your Honor.
And one of the shareholders is also a certain Attorney Butuyan.
Yes, he was my law partner for 30 years or so.
So you, Attorney Butuyan, and Attorney Ortega, what is your relationship with each other? Were you classmates, all partners?
Yes, we are all classmates, and that is why the family trusted Attorney Percival Ortega to take care of the interests of everyone.
Would you know if there are other companies wherein Attorney Ortega is the chairman and president of?
I know he sits in some other companies.
And who is reflective of the true beneficial owner of Biancham?
I'm sorry,
The
Mr. Chairman.
true and beneficial owner of Biancham.
It is my family now. Actually, the biggest shareholder of Biancham now is my aunt, who invested the most in the real estate project in Bataan. But as I said, my aunt had just passed.
The biggest shareholder, even if
She is, because she invested the biggest amount of money in the real estate transaction.
So her name would be reflected on the beneficial owner form in the SEC documents.
Not yet, because in the beginning, she made me sign a loan agreement, and then later on, she changed her mind that it will be hers. She changes, so I just
Not
comply.
yet. So meaning, or currently, you're the beneficial owner.
Well, in our trust
Yes or
agreement,
no lang, Mr. Chair?
no, Your Honor. Right now, the beneficial owner is still the estate of my aunt, who owns the biggest share in the land transaction in Bataan.
Mr. Chair, since the beneficial ownership form is submitted naman to the SEC, may we require that the beneficial ownership form be submitted to the committee?
I am not aware, Mr. Chair, if we submitted one in fact, because it is just a trust agreement amongst family members.
This is a requirement under the SEC. You're a very competent lawyer. You're not aware, and were you not the president? So you do not know the submissions?
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, I'm not a specialist in corporation law. That's why I have to hire
But
other
you were
lawyers.
the former president and chairman of Biancham.
Yes, Mr.
And you
Chair,
were not aware
but
of the submissions?
it's a dormant company for all intents and purposes. I am not a specialist in corporation law.
It's a dormant corporation right now. How so?
It's a holding corporation because it only owns title to raw land.
So,
It has no commercial activity other than holding title to raw land currently.
so Mr. Chair, may I move to get the beneficial ownership form if there is from the SEC or from Mr. Roque if he finds out.
Mr. Chair, I'm not aware I actually filed because this was 2020. But if we need to file belatedly, we will file belatedly. But right now, I am not aware if we in fact filed that with the SEC, in all honesty.
And earlier, the transfer of the shares of stock to Attorney Ortega was through what mode?
It is a trust agreement whereby he agreed to be a trustee for everyone in my family.
And you have a copy of that trust?
I committed to submit a copy already of the trust agreement.
And
All-
currently, are you in the process of buying back or any plans to buy back your shares in Biancham?
Yes, we are in the process of finalizing so that I can buy back shares not in Biancham anymore, because pursuant to our reorganization, Your Honor, that is what I meant, Mr. Chair, that it has become too personal. It has nothing to do with Pogo, but I will continue. Pursuant to our plans, we are segregating now assets which my wife acquired during our marriage and assets which I co-own with my relatives, siblings, including my aunt. So we have formed a new company. It has just been formed
Mr. Chair, I was just
recently.
simply asking if he's in the process of buying back shares in Biancham. I'm not asking for his history or what his plans in life.
We are in the process, Your Honor, of me relinquishing all shares to Biancham.
Okay. Can we move on to another subsidiary, another subsidiary? First, Bataan Mariveles Holding Corp. In 2017, you were a stockholder of Biancham, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
In fact, you were the president, correct?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
And you were also a board member.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So you will be aware of the transactions entered into by Biancham, correct?
Not Biancham.
Sorry,
Are we talking of First Bataan,
First Bataan,
Mr.
First
Chair?
Bataan.
Yes,
First Bataan.
well, insofar as it is engaged in land banking, yes, I was aware of the land banking activities of the company because that's the only thing it has been doing.
But as well as the Biancham activities, since you were also the president during that time.
There was no commercial activity, Mr. Chair, for Biancham because Biancham merely invested in the land banking activity of First Bataan because
And-
the family investment is under the name of Biancham in First Bataan.
So this investment that you're stating in 2017, is that the reason why there was a subscribed and paid share of 35,347 shares in the amount of 35,347,000?
Yes, Mr. Chair, that was the initial capital contribution of my family in the land banking activity.
And in the AFS in 2017 of Bianchan, there's a net loss of 254,347 with assets of 1.5 million in cash with no liabilities. So paano nagkaroon ng purchase?
It was in the form of, as I mentioned earlier, in the beginning, my aunt treated it as an extension of a loan. So it was an advance from my aunt, which I thought would redound already to my name. But in the end, she said, no, until you actually pay me, it will still be mine. So
Mr. Chair.
these were in the forms of cash advances to purchase the land.
Mr. Chair, may I move that we get a copy of this loan agreement because we are
Oh.
circling back to this loan from the aunt, which, well, she's not here anymore.
She's not here anymore.
She has passed,
And-
so we cannot obviously ask
and
questions.
The loan was not in writing, but it was recognized in my SALN as an obligation to
How
my aunt.
convenient that the loan was not in writing, Mr. Chair, and going back to a loan agreement, and we can't even know if the loan agreement really did exist between two persons when the other person is not here. So we're just going to rely, basically, on a loan agreement you're stating, going back to this by your own word.
Well, Mr. Chair, I guess we go back again to the sale of our real estate property in 2017 and the fact that we started investing in Bataan in 2018. So it was really in conforme with instructions of my grandfather, when you sell some of my land, you buy new land.
Mr. Chair, so we go back to this whole thing. Okay. So in summary lang, Mr. Chair, I would just like to show a summary of maybe the ownerships that we've established today on Biancham Holdings and Trading. If we can show the last slide, please. So we have Biancham Holdings and Tradings that we've seen the connection with PH2 Lot 37, which Biancham owns 99.99% of that. Na ito nga yung bahay na in Tuba, Benguet, where we see it was leased to Wan Yun, who apparently subleased this to Sun Liming. We're both connected with Pogos. We also have the connection with First Bataan, Mariveles Holdings Corporation, which you said that there's this land nga in Mariveles, that even if you are saying BPO siya, BPO can actually be a term naman na Pogo operations pa rin naman to, which this is why we are investigating on these illegal Pogos and these illegal businesses running in the guise of a legal corporation or legal operations when hindi naman pala, no? Which Biancham owns 49%, almost 50%, and another is owned by Green Miles. Na alam naman natin may partnership ang Green Miles with Biancham also. So all of these, Mr. Chair, I just want to rebut what with due respect to the resource person, na walang kinalaman ng mga pinagtatanong natin sa Biancham at yung family holdings nila sa iba't ibang mga corporations na nakita naman natin subsidiary naman ng Biancham. That seems we have to dig deeper on the connection of the resource person with the connection also of some individuals and the connection of Pogo as a whole, which is part of this, what we're discussing anyway, Mr. Chair. With that po, Mr. Chair, I end my questions.
Okay. Thank you, Congresswoman Nograles.